Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So in today's video, I unfortunately have some bad news that I do have to deliver, which I really hate to do, but it's really just what it's coming down to with a lot of lawmakers coming out and saying probably this is just the reality of the program and what's going to be happening over the next couple of years. So we're going to be discussing what the bad news is, but fortunately there is a silver lining in all this. There is some good news where a couple of bipartisan bills might just be delivered before the next Congress comes in. We might see these bills pass either before the end of this year or perhaps early on next year. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Okay, so this year, Social Security for once has really been brought to the front of discussions, of course, with the looming deadline of 2033 or 2034, where the Social Security Trust Fund will be going insolvent. And the trust fund is basically what is paying out all of the benefits to Americans who are receiving Social Security benefits. So this deadline is extremely important. And what we mean by the solvency issue or the Social Security Trust Fund going insolvent is it doesn't mean that it's going to be completely depleted to $0 where they won't be able to pay out any benefits at all. Yes, everyone receiving Social Security will still be receiving some type of benefit. However, whatever they're receiving then, they're going to receive an automatic cut of anywhere between 20 to 25%, perhaps somewhere in the middle of those two numbers. So what that means, of course, is if your benefit in 2033, for example, is $1,000, well, if you receive a 20% cut from your $1,000 benefit, that means you're only going to be receiving $800. So that's going to be a huge cut, 20%. That is absolutely something that, most Americans are not going to be able to withstand, especially if they don't have some other form of income, such as maybe they're still working, or maybe they have, like an IRA that they can withdraw from. Maybe they saved up a lot of money. So for those Americans where they rely so heavily on these Social Security checks, where it makes up a lot of the income that they're receiving to pay their rent, to pay groceries, everything else, all the rising expenses that have been taking place, well, it's going to hit them the hardest because, a 20% cut to their benefits is something they're not just going to be able to withstand. So it's extremely important that they take action. And even though we've seen a lot of different bills from different congressional lawmakers this year, well, most of them have been partisan. So we have like a bill like the Social Security Expansion Act from Bernie Sanders and the Social Security 2100 Act from Jordan Larson. And these bills have been extremely popular among Democrats, but they have not gained any type of Republican support. And in these bills, they would actually increase benefits by as much as $485 for those receiving the special minimum benefit. In Bernie Sanders' Social Security Expansion Act, everyone receiving Social Security would receive a $200 boost to whatever they're currently receiving, and it would extend the solvency issue all the way out to around $2,100. And in the Social Security 2100 Act, it would increase benefits by 2% for everyone across the board. So it would do a lot, but unfortunately, it is just a partisan. They're just partisan ideas. They don't have any Republican support. And without Republican support, they're not going to be able to pass any of these bills through the House. And they're not going to get the 60 votes that they would need in the Senate in order to pass them. So according to Yahoo Finance, Congress again ignores solving Social Security's looming insolvency issues. So after a flurry of activity this spring, bipartisan talks on Capitol Hill to starve off a looming insolvency for Social Security are officially on ice, likely until after the 2024 election. In an interview this week before Congress left for summer recess, Senator Bill Cassidy didn't mince words. He said, quote, "I have no optimism whatsoever," he said, of the chances of action this year. Cassidy has been a leader on the Republican side of those talks, and before they stalled, Cassidy and Senator Angus King, an independent in Maine, had enlisted a group of 14 senators from both sides of the aisle to explore solutions like adjusting the retirement age. The talk stalled and never produced a detailed plan. So, there we have the leader of probably the best bill, the best chance of a bill passing in Senator Bill Cassidy. And he's saying that he has no optimism whatsoever. So what does that tell us about the chances of this bill, or really any bill involving Social Security, at least making it so the solvency issue is solved? actually gets passed. When we had the leader of this bill saying that he has no optimism whatsoever, he considers this bill dead. And if we're not able to pass this bill by the end of next year, but we're going to have a new Congress come in, and they're going to have to start this process all over again by reintroducing the bill, at least in the House, if they ever do introduce the bill. Well, in Cassidy's plan, what they ended up doing, once again, it was bipartisan, so they were working with both Republicans and Democrats, which is something that they will absolutely have to do to pass any of these bills, considering that they would need at least 60 votes in the Senate. What they were going to do is they were going to take $1.5 trillion and they were going to invest that money into the U.S. economy, so like stocks, real estate, stuff like that, and they were going to be hoping to garner a bigger return than what they're currently getting from like U.S. treasuries, which they can usually get like 2 to 3%, a safe number, but a very low number. So they were thinking if they could invest this money into stocks, real estate, perhaps they could gain returns of like anywhere between 8 to 15%. And then whatever gains they got from that, they would put into the Social Security Trust Fund. Now, keep in mind the $1.5 trillion, they would not be borrowing this money or taking it from the trust fund. Instead, it would be separate from the trust fund. So it would be an additional $1.5 trillion in spending. And then, of course, they consider other ideas as well, such as raising the full retirement age up to 69. But, we never really saw a true plan released because, they never released a bill. They were talking, it was kind of like bipartisan, but at the end of the day, I think both sides kind of broke up, especially with the election coming up. They don't want to seem like they're agreeing with anything. They want to pit the other side as the enemy, especially with the election coming up. They want to, make it seem like they're the good guy and the other side is evil. So that way they get elected, they continue to enrich themselves, right? But, that one ended up falling through. Cassidy saying he has no optimism. So the article goes on to say that, of course, those bigger problems are only going to become more unavoidable in the coming years, with a recent government trustees report finding that Social Security will be in a financial peril within a decade if Congress takes no action. The program only has the funds to continue paying out 100% of benefits through 2034. After that, benefits could be cut across the board by 23%. So of course, I already mentioned that is a huge issue. They need to solve this issue. But the article goes on to say that one smaller effort that has gained momentum is centered around how the Social Security Administration communicates with Americans to help them make better decisions about when to claim their Social Security benefits. The Social Security program gives retirees an option of when to start getting their checks. They can start as early as age 62, but with a trade-off. Those monthly benefits are locked in at a lower rate for the rest of their lives. The monthly benefit amount gets bigger the longer you wait to claim, topping out with maximum benefits for Americans who wait until age 70. A second effort from Representatives Abigail Spanberger and Garrett Graves is focused on changing the rules around the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. The current setup can reduce the Social Security benefits for workers who receive a pension from a job not covered by Social Security. It is, in effect, the lawmakers say, a penalty on public sector workers. Graves said, quote, "Our teachers, police officers, firefighters, emergency responders, and other local and state public servants and their spouses or survivors have been wrongly penalized." That bill currently has 288 co-sponsors in the House from both sides of the aisle. So obviously, we do have some bills out there that do have bipartisan support, such as that one by Garrett Graves and Abigail Spanberger. 288 co-sponsors is a lot, and for whatever reason, they're not actually passing this bill. But even though we do have a lot of bipartisan support on some bills, these bills are ones that are actually going to have more money leaving the trust fund, which is going to speed up the insolvency date from, let's say, like 2033 or 2034 to perhaps maybe 2031, 2032. And unfortunately, the bigger picture, the picture of the insolvency issue of 2033, 2034, we don't really have any clear-cut solutions because none of these bills, again, are bipartisan. And if we only have partisan bills out there, one supported by only Democrats or one supported by only Republicans, we're not going to be able to get a bill through both the House and the Senate. It's very likely that a bill could possibly pass in the House just because they just need a simple majority. They just need 218 votes. But in the Senate, it's much more difficult because any bill, in order to pass the Senate, would need at least 60 senators in support of the bill out of 100 senators. And it's very unusual where we ever have a Senate that makes up of at least 60 Democrats or 60 Republicans. The last time that happened was back in 2009 where for a very short amount of time we had 60 Democrats in the Senate, but it's very unlikely for this to happen. So in order for a bill to pass the Senate, we're going to have to have both Republicans and Democrats supporting the bill, which right now we do not have any bills out there with both Democrat and Republican support. So we really have to hope that they're able to come together with some sort of bipartisan idea and, make it so we're not going to have benefits cut by 20 to 25%, because again, those Americans who rely, very heavily on Social Security benefits definitely cannot have a cut of 20 to 25%. But let me know what your thoughts and comments are below on everything going on right now in Washington. Would love to read them. But that's all the news that I have for today's video. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. And I will see you in the next video.